Jane Austen had spent most of her life writing, and unfortunately, after she had finally started to take off, she pretty quickly fell ill and passed on.
But before she died, she was working on a new novel that she would not be able to complete.
And that novel is known as Sanditon, but that's not her only unfinished work.
In the early 1800s, she started another book known as The Watsons that she ended up abandoning when her father died in 1805.
I'm Alex.
And I'm Eric.
And this is In Other Works. So, Sanditon. I'd ask what you thought you'd think, but realistically, Jane Austen barely started by the time she died.
Yeah, I think there's 12 chapters in it, which,
12.
you know,
And the 12 chapters isn't even finished.
Yeah, and for some novelists, 12 chapters could be a whole book, but her chapters were often pretty short, and she usually had somewhere between 50 and 60 chapters in her book. So
I'm not even completely sure who the protagonist is, if I'm being honest.
I think the female protagonist is Charlotte, the young girl who comes to visit Sanditon after her family encounters the people who are trying to build it up.
But even then, she takes a bit into what we have to actually even show up, right? I don't know, because you got the whole accident thing first, and all that sort of stuff, and she's not involved in that, right?
Well, she is the family. She's part of the family who helps the guy who had the accident.
Yeah, but she herself isn't there.
She might be there, but she's not really talked about until it's said that she's going to go to Sanditon. So Sanditon, it starts with the character of Mr. and Mrs. Parker having an accident in their coach, and Mr. Parker injures himself, and they're helped by the Haywoods. In the time that they're talking, we find out that Mr. Parker is from this seaside village named Sanditon, and he is absolutely obsessed with promoting it as like the new sort of health spa center of England, and wanting people to come there for all the health benefits of being by the sea and all of that. Mr. Haywood, who he talks to, seems pretty skeptical about all of that. But through the course of their conversation, he ends up agreeing to send his daughter Charlotte to go and stay with the Parkers for a little while and visit Sanditon.
And then she goes and visits Sanditon, and that's basically all we have.
Well, we get introduced to a bunch of characters who are obviously going to be the people who Austen is going to satirize and make fun of. So yeah, we're just sort of getting introduced to the characters when the book ends. But it does give you some insight into the sort of things she was thinking about. She's writing this book while she is herself sick and doesn't know that she's on her deathbed sick, just knows that she's not well. And a lot of this sort of is making fun of the health industry, I would say, with people swearing by all kinds of, going to the seaside for health benefits. Or the youngest brother and two sisters of Mr. Parker are described as being invalids, and they're actually surprised when they show up at Sanditon because they thought they were too ill to travel. And then we meet them, and they don't actually seem to be that sick. They seem to talk about how sick they are more than they show any actual symptoms.
And Jane Austen was actually sick while she was writing this.
Yeah, so I would wonder if she had encountered a lot of those kind of people while she was trying to get treatment for what actually being ill. We don't get a lot of it, but we see like the youngest brother. Basically, he's just a bit of a glutton, and he's overweight and is always trying, and the sisters are always trying to make sure he doesn't overeat, and he's constantly overeating anyway because he thinks he needs it for his like stamina to make himself healthy, and they think he needs to eat less to make himself healthy, and it's all just a bit ridiculous. Yeah. And Charlotte seems to recognize that it's ridiculous, but is nice to them.
One thing that had me curious though, because it's so early into the book this ends, Sanditon was not the name Jane Austen chose for this. How long would they have actually spent at Sanditon in this book? Like, is there any
I
idea?
think it was going to be the main setting of the book. Like, Sanditon, town of sand, right? You have the beginning of the book, you have the carriage crash, and that's like, it actually mentions how the road was partly sand, and that's partially why they crashed, because the sand couldn't support the buggy, and that's why they crashed. So it's like this town built on sand with this crazy idea of becoming like a health center, and it seemed like, is it really possible, or is it just a city built on sand that's going to collapse on itself too, right?
Like a sand castle.
Because I mean, the town is called Sanditon, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it makes sense that might not be what she would have chosen for the title, but it makes sense that that is the focus of the book, I think. We have other characters that are coming in. There's like a girls' school who are coming to stay. And one of the characters, 3 of her grandparents were white and one of them was black. We don't get enough to see how Jane Austen would have dealt with that character, but it would be interesting. Like, she's definitely mixed race, but she's also the heiress of the family. So there could have been this thing where people putting aside, like being racist to other people, but not being racist to her because she's got wealth and that sort of thing, and how that would all play out in Regency England and that sort of society.
So your opinion is Austen would have been critical of racism?
It's hard to say. There's this part
In Mansfield
Park where somebody is criticizing the main character for not talking enough to the head of the household, and she says, well, I tried to ask him about the slave trade, and it's just very casually brought up, and it's weird. And I think there's like a lot of different ways and hypocrisies of that where
it's really hard to get a sense of what Austen believes.
Yeah, maybe Austen was fine with the slave trade, but also thought that black people who weren't slaves should be treated as equals. Like, you never know how these sorts of how people in that time would have thought.
Or maybe the point of Mansfield Park was that everyone is just the worst in that book, and that's why it's so charmless compared to our other books.
Could be. Although this is not a review of Mansfield Park.
Yeah, well, we need to get the runtime somehow. Gotta get that ad revenue that's we're not monetized yet, but who cares? We need it. There's a lot to wonder about because it ends so early. It's really hard to gauge an opinion of it. Charlotte is only introduced quite a bit into the small portion that we have, that I wasn't yet sure she was the main character until I had to think about it.
I mean, the only reason I think she's the main character is because she's the fish out of water character, right? Like, we meet her family at the beginning, and she goes to visit Sanditon from her home. So she's like in unfamiliar surroundings, meeting people, so she seems like the kind of character who would be the protagonist. What I'm not clear on, because it is a Jane Austen story, so if she'd finished it, Charlotte definitely would have been getting married by the end. And I have no idea who she was going to end up married to. Whereas, I think every other Jane Austen book I've read, the male character who's going to be the interest of the main female character, by the time they're introduced, you know who they are. And what's going to happen, which is not a criticism of Austen. It's actually kind of charming, that sort of thing.
I don't know if I knew for sure in Sense and Sensibility that they were going to end up with Edward.
Yeah, okay. You're right. Yeah. Sense and Sensibility is a bit not always clear.
A lot of fake outs.
Yeah. And Edward's described as this person who it's not worth him trying to get a profession and stuff like that. It's like, oh, okay, and this is the love interest, is it? But I guess when you're wealthy, you don't necessarily need to worry about finding something to do.
Or what do you imagine Hugh Grant in the role?
Yeah.
Then you look at Pride and Prejudice, and Mr. Darcy is so obviously the GOAT.
Pride and Prejudice and Sense and Sensibility also have secondary love interest stories, like a sister. I don't know who that would have been if that was going to be in this one. There's no indication of that. Maybe this Mrs. Lamb or Ms. Lamb, who I was talking about, might have been the secondary love interest story.
Or maybe it could have just been someone that shows up later. We really can't know.
No, it's all speculation.
Mm-hmm.
I have to say, I can't even tell you too much if I enjoyed the book. I wasn't at all turned off about reading it like I was a few times in Mansfield Park, where I just was like, Fanny, just make a decision and do something. For God's sake. But I didn't have any moments like that in this. But I also just didn't know any of the characters well enough. Mm-hmm. Didn't know the surroundings well enough yet. Didn't really know anything well enough to know if I liked it or not.
It's weird. Pride and Prejudice, I felt like when I read that, I instantly knew I was reading a masterpiece. Sense and Sensibility does take a bit to get into. And so I'd say it's not even the first 12 chapters of Sense and Sensibility. Probably feels how I felt after reading like the first 6 or 7 chapters of that book.
You might be right. I don't know. I feel like the chapters in this might be especially short though. Like maybe 12 chapters of this lengthwise is maybe only like 8 chapters of Sense and Sensibility, but I don't know. I can't say for sure.
Yeah, no, there was like some 3-page chapters and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And reading the book, because I'm pretty sure it's just an unedited version of her manuscript, you notice that Jane Austen didn't always know how to spell words. Like, for example, some words like agreeable, she'd write with only one E. And I can't remember the specific word, but there was definitely a word where she double E'd when she should have EA'd. You also notice, which I never noticed in her other books, a lot of M dashes.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So it's really interesting that, like, I guess because her other books, she spent so much time in the kitchen with them, like Pride and Prejudice. I'm pretty sure she finished her first draft in like 1793. And I mean, book came out in 1813. So that's been like 20 years developing it and editing it and perfecting it.
It's funny, the M dash, like, it kind of makes sense when you're writing first draft that you might use those, but actually as a literary structure, when I'm reading books that have M dashes, like if they're done well, I've always kind of liked them. But these days, AI uses M dashes a lot.
Yeah.
So it's like a clue that maybe, you know, if your writing has a lot of M dashes in it, it's a clue that AI wrote it. So I wonder if we'll see less use of that in books and stuff going forward because of that.
Maybe. But yeah, it's interesting because this is the Oxford edition. This definitely didn't have AI involved.
No, I'm not definitely not suggesting that Jane Austen was whipping out her iPhone and asking Copilot or
Jane Austen asking ChatGPT. No, I think she had integrity.
Yeah. One of the things too we should say is, like you said, because you can see the spelling mistakes, you can see the M dashes that aren't usually part of her writing structure, that this is definitely a first draft. And maybe if she'd gotten around to a second or third draft, it would have been as compelling as Pride and Prejudice when it was finished. But we can never know that.
I mean, the accident itself was pretty interesting, I'd say. Like, it's definitely one of the most interesting ways she started a book. It's just like, don't really know the characters yet.
And then it's interesting we do meet another character who's also one of the people who is trying to promote Sanditon. She's this wealthy woman she's definitely a widow who either remarried and is now married to someone else, or she's a widow twice over. Her first husband was wealthy, and her second husband had a title. He was a lord. And there's a point made in the book where the wealthy husband, she has a small picture of, and the husband who was a lord, she has a very large picture of. And she's a very like status obsessed woman. So it kind of like those details kind of revealing character and that kind of stuff. It's interesting to think where that kind of stuff would have gone. But again, we can't know.
So that's Sanditon for you. Do you want to talk about The Watsons now?
Sure. The Watsons, like I said, was a book she started in the early 1800s. I think it's even shorter.
Oh yeah, it's shorter than Sanditon.
Sanditon. It has been finished by multiple people since she died. Also, people have continued Sanditon as well, we should say. So those are also options to get a sense of where the story might have gone. But nobody who's writing those actually is working from an outline of Jane Austen's or anything.
I think the Watsons, surprisingly enough, had more notes than Sanditon.
I think she had a sister who she talked to about the Watsons and where she was going, what she was planning to do with it. It's sort of a reverse Mansfield Park, in that it starts with a woman who has grown up with her aunt. Her uncle, I guess, dies. She remarries, and the new husband doesn't want her around, so she has to go back to her family, who she doesn't really know. Has one older sister who she immediately gets attached to, a couple of younger sisters who she's not too fond of, and a brother.
So this book stars Emma Watson.
That is the main character's name. Yeah, Emma Watson.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember when you were reading it, you just texted me Emma Watson, LOL, and I had no idea what you were talking about because I didn't know you were referring to the book. I think there's some speculation that some of the ideas that she had for this book she
Used in Emma?
Used for Emma. Yeah.
Well, Austen does reuse names, like Fanny's an important character in Sense and Sensibility, and then the main character of Mansfield Park, and both of them suck.
Yeah, and I think there's a Fanny mentioned in The Watsons, too.
She likes the name Fanny. I don't know if I've seen that name really anywhere outside of Jane Austen.
And considering what it's a slang for
these days.
Well, here and in the UK, different slang, but it's a bit funny.
You felt like you got more of an impression on the Watsons than Sanditon. I feel the other way around, honestly.
I felt like character-wise I did. I don't know about plot-wise, but character-wise, I felt like I was connecting with the characters more immediately in the Watsons than I was in Sanditon.
I wasn't really connecting with either and either.
Oh, okay. Emma's coming home. She's meeting her family. Her father is unwell. I think it's 5 or 6 chapters.
6, yeah.
And but I think I also read that she didn't actually divide, like, the draft that she wrote is not divided into chapters.
So
the chapter divisions are a decision someone else made at some point.
Oh, so in reality, the Watsons, we probably read the first, 40 chapters.
No, I think it's fair to say it's probably 5 chapters is probably fair.
Think so?
Yeah.
It was 6 chapters what we read.
Yeah, okay.
But I don't know, because Jane Austen does typically write short chapters, and I mean, I guess though Mansfield Park's an exception where these chapters feel more like Mansfield Park length than they do
Pride and Prejudice or Sense and Sensibility.
Yeah, or Sanditon length. I think I like it when Jane Austen writes shorter chapters. I think Mansfield Park doesn't work with its chapters being that long. How much of this video is going to be Mansfield Park slander? Sorry, it's just when the inevitable Jane Austen ranking happens, I think you guys are going to know where that's going.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, should we include Lady Susan? We included Happy Death when we did our Camus ranking, and that's sort of a book in a similar boat where she finished it, but she never published it.
Yeah, so let us know in the comments.
I don't know if there's much more to say on the Watsons.
Yeah, I guess you're right. It's as much as I liked the characters more, there isn't a lot that happens in the Watsons. She basically shows up and meets her family.
Which, it's nice, but what is there to say about that?
Yeah. I think we don't even know. I think there's actually more to say about what she planned to do.
There is.
Because she was going to kill off the father and have Emma have to live with her brother and his wife, who resented having to put them up and makes it unpleasant for them. And then there's there's a man who one of the other characters will be chasing, who isn't interested in the woman that's chasing him, and ends up with Emma at the end. And I think that's what...
We haven't met that person yet, have we?
No, I don't think so. So
yeah,
it's interesting. I guess she gave it up because her father died while she was writing it, and I wonder if it's
because she was planning to kill off the father in this. That was a bit too close.
That could be why she decided not to go back to it. It could be that writing it just reminded her of her father. Mm-hmm. Could just be that she got another idea that she liked better when she was finally up to going back to writing. But we don't really know that either. I think maybe both these stories would have had potential. It's kind of a shame that we don't get to see how they ended,
but we have Pride and Prejudice, and that is one of the best books ever written. So
yeah, it's great. Speaking of Pride and Prejudice, look out in the future. We're going to be doing an examination of different adaptations of Pride and Prejudice, talk about what they get right, what they get wrong. I don't know if we'll say which ones are our favorites or not.
I am, but he can choose what he wants to do. Thanks for watching. Like the video if you liked it. Dislike it if you didn't like it. Subscribe. Leave a comment.
And ring the little bell.
Bye. Ciao. For now.